Happy birthday.
It is our birthday.
It is birthday. We've just been having this conversation, and which has been fascinating. And now, in typical us fashion, we're going to officially start and then be like,
P.S. You don't know anything about what we just talked about,
no,
but
nothing.
we're going to dig in.
While we're waiting for our guest, who I did message, and I'll check in a bit. But we're talking about for birthday affirmations. I was saying that Raquelle, you have a great way of diffusing me, I guess I would say, because I can come across, apparently I don't see this at all. I mean, in my mind, I'm like a little squishy jelly bear. But to other people, apparently I am quite sharp.
Assertive? I think assertive.
I don't know if assertive is the word. I think it's...
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, I know I sometimes I think I can get aggressive, defensive, and my tonality is interesting to people, especially in North America, because I say something with a different inflection, and I'm so interested in how that affects how it's received. Like my mum, Mama, she will, and she knows this. She was raised in Calcutta, and which is now called something. What's it called now? I'm going to show my ignorance. I need to know the answer to this. But anyway, we'll move on from that point. But she has, I guess I would say, an Indian lilt, like in her accent, in her tonality. So when I was growing up, I used to always be like, why are you angry at me? And she'd be like, what? What are you saying? And when she would say, you can do whatever you like, to someone who is not aware of that accent, that sounds accusatory in a different language, in a different accent, right?
Oh.
And I have a feeling, and to be fair, Mum and I had an amazing conversation, like we always do, about this. And we're like, oh, what is this? Oh, interesting. Oh, great. And then I realized that when she would be like, you can do whatever you like, I'd be like, oh, she's just saying you can do whatever you like. That's it.
Right.
There's no
full stop.
It's not malicious. She's my mother. You've all met my mother now. You've listened to the podcast. She's like the most awesome human on the planet. Just like your mother is, Raquelle. So we were having this conversation. I think it's really interesting because I think when I do know that I spend a lot of time and energy on words, and you made a very interesting observation that which I didn't think, I think I get I get even more rambly when I'm trying to make a point. But I think you're right, my pace and my tone changes, and I think that is received as much more aggressive than is happening in my mind. Because in my mind, someone said this to me on set the other day. They were like, they did something and I said, it's your call. And they were like, well, you felt this way. And I was like, no, I felt like it was your call, which is why I said it's your call. And then they turned around and said, yes, but you know what? And tried to and we started having this conversation.
So they thought it was like passive aggressive, and you were like, no,
they
this
made
is
other
clarity.
Words. They put other words into my words. And I understand now that tonality is important, but yet I also don't want to change that, because to go back to the Kool-Aid drinking and the affirmations on the birthday day, Raquelle, I say things and you go, ha ha ha. And that's it. And then
but to be fair, couple things on that. One, I was actually talking to my mother after her podcast episode. I was talking to her about this and about just dealing with different people and things like that. And I was like, we were talking about strong women and how strong women can come across, like, they seem to come across aggressive. And I was saying how I never see it as aggression, because I've grown up with strong women. So to me, I don't have that affront. Like, that doesn't pop up for me. I don't have that sense of, is this on, like, is there attack? Is there whatever? That doesn't even come into the realm of my mind. I'm like, oh, is that a clear point? Is it not? Whatever. But a lot of people immediately are like, whoa, that's aggressive. And they get their wall up. On the other hand, I have gotten in trouble in meetings for laughing. Because while you say it disarms you, which I think it should, other people.
Yeah, see, once again, proving that you're hacking into my mind brain. There you go.
But I think it should, because it's lightening the mood. It's like, okay, whatever. I've had people who get like super, super, super angry about it. Like, I'm talking.
Are you laughing at really inappropriate time? Are you the Joker? Are you being the Joker?
No,
about it?
I think they take on my laughter with their own insecurities, which is the same thing that I'm saying about people who speak in a very assertive way. I think sometimes the listeners will take that on in a aggressive manner when really it's assertive. Whereas for me, you know, I might be trying to laugh off whatever it is, like tension in the air, or to try to like make a joke to kind of chill things out. They take it as I'm laughing at them. Or they'll take it as I'm like, it's more of a vindictive laugh. And I'm like, I don't see that at all. That's not how I feel. I don't feel like this is aggressive. Like, but they take it that way.
It's interesting because what's the line, right? Like, what's the? I mean, I've had situations where I had one recently where someone said something and they were like, "You totally missed the mark," and you really upset me, and this is what I wanted, and this is what I needed from you, and you didn't do that. And I immediately put all of the justifications and all of the reasons why I didn't give them what they wanted and what was going on in my life, and it like in my mind. Mm-hmm. And then I stopped myself for a second because thankfully we had the chance to be asynchronous in our communication. And just to be clear about asynchronous communication, it's that where that I learned from my friend Mike. Asynchronous is when you're not in real time having a conversation like this. Where
so you have a moment to think about it.
You have a moment to think. You know, it's an email. That's asynchronous, or like a voice note. And you and I do a lot of voice note based stuff because of time differences as well. But also it's clearer to get the words out right in one go. Yeah. And what I realized was I was putting all of my issues onto the situation at hand. And if I had to respond in real time, I would have put all of those justifications into this argument when they were not relevant for that time. And I think the interesting thing about when people are expressing their discontent or discomfort at anything, it's so easy for us. We've had this conversation with our guests. Like, it's so easy for us to go, but this is why. This is why I did what I did. And they're like, but this is what I'm trying to tell you right now is how I'm feeling. And they're like, but this is why I'm responding the way I'm responding. So how do you do that in real time in an office-based situation or a work-based situation where you're like, I disagree with this? Hi. And should you?
Because, you know, I think about it, and how many times have you had an employer or a manager, specifically a male manager or employer, who has their idiosyncrasies and you're told to learn them? I've had coworkers, not even management. So let's say I'm not even managing upwards. I've had coworkers where they're like, you know, Raquelle, that's just how this guy's brain works. So you're going to have to go around it. Maybe I do, but then why is that not afforded to us as well?
And I think this is the interesting conversation, right? Is that who was I talking? Was I talking to? It probably was you. I was talking about the concept of colonialism, of like, you know, of normalizing new behavior, because we have a society that's built in a certain way. Let's take gender, let's take culture out of it, but we have a society that's built in a way. That society has been built in a way that has ingrained a behavior system into us one way or another, right? So undoing that, normalizing, and, you know, having that feeling where I don't feel like I can assert and tell someone, hey, this is how I am. This is, you know, essentially what really is management of expectations. Yeah. I didn't have, until I started at this recording school that I worked at, I wasn't afforded the opportunity to start the process of it being a different way to what society had taught us, right? And we can only do a certain amount of things in a day, like, and we can also only make a certain amount of decisions, in my opinion. Otherwise you get decision fatigue. And I think it's the same way with behavior fatigue. And I don't know if that's a term, I am just making that up, but But behavior fatigue is, in my mind, what I realize is we're not carving enough time of the day to actually identify some of the behaviors that are systemically affecting and impacting us based on whatever intersectionality we're in, right? Cultural, gender, all of the identities. We're not putting enough time collectively aside to actually unpack it. Now, I will say that we are starting to do that. I think that's the diversity and equality and diversity.
Do you really
equity,
think that
and inclusion
that
movement is
changes
doing that.
those things?
I think it's the beginning, but I mean, it's like saying, we're not gladiators anymore. We don't put people into arenas and kill each other for fun. I mean, you would argue that UFC is not that far off, but at the same time, they're not dying in front of us. Like, that's progress. But let me be very clear about my opinion about UFC. I don't like the concept that we still derive so much joy from it, but I do respect that it is its own art form, that we are still human beings, and that enough people are buying into this concept. I don't have to agree with it.
I mean, I enjoy
respect
it.
Exactly, there you go. A lot of people do. I enjoy any Jennifer Lopez movie. Pretty much anyone, except for the scary ones. I don't do this. But my point is, I think that when I started at that recording school, I carved out that time to say, hi, everybody, this is how I am. This is my direct nature. This is the context. And it helps to not have an accent that's Canadian, because I am from places that are culturally very direct. Cantonese is a very direct language, even though I don't speak Cantonese fluently.
Is. Yeah, but you would probably have the intonation.
Culture.
Yeah. Whoa, sorry.
That culture. And same with London, it's very direct, And what is happening to my head? Look at this. What is this?
I'm feeling the same. I just feel like things need help.
What happened to my... I was like, I'm like... We can't help but look at ourselves in this mirror, okay? Look, I'm just going to identify the vanity and say, if you're not watching this and you're just listening, there is a small piece of hair. My hair is like shoulder length now. It's growing slowly.
It's like a little tail.
It's like a little tail, but a side rat tail that I had thought... Don't laugh right now. I'm taking this as an insult from you, Raquelle. Look at it. It's like this weird. In my mind, I was like, oh, my headphone wire looks weird today. And then I realized it's my very dark hair that is just scraggling. What's his name? Scriggle?
Raggedy.
I'm raggedy today. I'm just raggedy.
I'm raggedy today.
No,
I feel a little
you look
raggedy
like a
today.
jelly bear.
A jelly
like
bear.
a jelly bear.
That's what I was going for today.
Well, better than having a side rat tail and trying to get away with it. Jeez, can we all just stop looking at this thing? God, like what's happening? What is the back of my head doing? I did the grind today. I went up with Katie and we were talking about Brunch Club and making Brunch Club, and I really want Katie on there because Katie's she's so dry. She just complements my dryness with more dryness. And it really helps me feel like a normal human.
Dry poured on dry, poured on dry.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just dry ice this situation. Anyway, the sidebar is over now because my hair's now all down, and I'm hoping that let's be honest, we don't look great.
This is Optic TV may not want this episode.
Happy birthday to us. Happy Bombshell's birthday. This is about being a bombshell in all of its glory and all of its raggedy. And talking about how we're apparently really aggressive and how Raquelle just laughs at everything I say to diffuse the situation and hack my mind.
Apparently, I'm an aggressive laugher. Like,
well,
but you know
that's
what's
just
funny?
a sound thing. You just laugh
it's
loudly.
Always men. It's always men that take offense to my laughter. It's always men. I've never had a woman be like, "I'm really upset that you're laughing."
Well, okay, but in men's defense, are you laughing at them because you think they're stupid when they're saying these things? Like
No, it'll be like okay, so let's say sometimes there's a heated meeting, right? And then people are getting heated, whatever.
You're just laughing in a corner?
No.
Shots
So
fired.
like say a point, whatever, but then I'll try to like throw in a joke just to kind of break the tension. Or I'll make it funny to break the tension. Or sometimes, quite honestly, sometimes I will laugh. Like, okay, I am truly that person. Like, I remember I did choir for years, okay? We're going to kick it old school with, like, high school Raquelle. I did
This
choir,
is why she sings the It Is Tuesday. This is also why she probably should have stayed in choir so she could sing it better.
This is why I fuck with you.
Oh.
Because I know how.
Worse.
But
You're
and
a
then
monster.
I ended up like teaching choir at my high school. Yeah, so like I did because I started choir in like grade 3 or 4, and I was in
Stop lying.
What?
Every time we have a conversation, you say to me, "Oh, by the way, I was also this." Like, it is not possible for someone to have done all of these things, and then for me, who speaks to you every single day, to not know these things. You have a problem with compartmentalizing your life, and we need to have a very serious conversation. We need to.
But I'm
real
keeping
talk.
it interesting for you. I'm like,
Are you making up hidden ideas? Are you just? Do you have split personalities? Is it like? But all of them laugh the same way, and like.
Oh, this is what I tell Jean. I tell him he's so lucky because he gets a new woman every day. Like,
that's concerning.
All the very many sides of me, and you don't know which one you're going to wake up to. This is how we keep it spicy.
And terrifying. Spicy and terrifying. Just to be really clear, everybody.
Depends which Raquelle you get, really.
I like to think that I have a board of directors in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are 12. There are 12 people. Some days, some of them are louder than others. I mean,
but do you need like unanimous votes for big things? Yeah. Big,
like,
big
if you're going to go
choices,
skydiving, like, you're like, everyone needs to be on board about this. If one
Really?
person is... Yeah.
No.
What? How?
We'll never go.
Treat your board of directors well, Raquelle. What is going on? You need to treat your people well. We have a whole career pathway program for this.
No. I'm like, Scaredy Sam can just take a back seat. It's fine. We got this.
Yeah, you're running a
the rest of us
dictatorship.
11.
That's what you're doing. There's a few people in there that are going to cause mutiny. I'm just telling you.
They're just like rocking back and forth in the back of the.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
No.
gosh.
Okay, but hold on. Okay, so the
I
choir.
interrupted. You're right. The choir.
Okay. And then grade 11, I started teaching choir. But my goal was I wanted to get into chamber choir. And I never got in. I don't know. It was just like the thing. It was like in choir, that was like the epitome of choir, is like in chamber choir. I'm not even joking you. And so I was like, okay, I was gunning for chamber choir and I didn't get in. And so I was like so furious, and it was grade 12. So I was like, well, this is my last chance. Like, I didn't get in. So now it's never going to happen. So it didn't matter all of these other things. It didn't matter that I would like get all these solos and I would do all this singing, and it was great. And we traveled like in the States and everything and sang there. And I went in grade 12 and I was like, I have to quit choir, but I was laughing. And my teacher was horrified. She was like looking at me and she's like, but why? I was like, well, you know,
why are you
like,
quitting, or why are you laughing?
Why am I quitting? Well, at first it was, why am I quitting? And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just like not really gonna do it this year. And I don't know. I was like, I didn't want to be vulnerable because I was much less able to be vulnerable at that age. And so I was like, I didn't want to tell her why.
Do you think you're better?
Honey, trust me, you have a much better version, a much more vulnerable version. I was hardcore. I was like very, very safe with myself. But I was laughing, and she just had this like shocked look on her face, and she was like, but why are you laughing? She was so upset.
No. You're like, ha, I'm leaving. You've lost your best asset. Goodbye. Just run off into the distance.
But like the awful part is I think back and I'm like, I should have told her why I was quitting. But also I've always, for years, I've been curious, like why I didn't make it into chamber choir. Because it could have been anything. It could have been like you had to be able to sight read music, which I never was trained in, so I couldn't do that. So it could have just been that. It could have been
I'm
like
pretty sure you've answered the question. Like, I'm pretty
but
sure.
it could have been all these things, and I was
No,
just like,
no.
didn't make the goal. We're moving on.
I don't think it could have been all those other things. I think you couldn't sight read. Like, that's a pretty, it's not like, why didn't I book that commercial? I don't, there could, in that situation, there could have been many things. I could be too short. I could have to, like, my hair color could be weird. I could not be the right look. Like, yeah, I totally get that. Choir, in chamber choir,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you're welcome. I've just solved that problem. You can now put that to rest. You couldn't read music, Raquelle. That's like saying, I don't know why I didn't get let into, like, Berkeley for music performance when the prerequisite was grade 8, and someone says, do you have grade 8? And you say, no, I don't understand. It could be anything.
But she could have taught me or said to get lessons or like been like, come back next year and learn how to sight read. The problem was she didn't give me feedback. And also the problem was I didn't ask for feedback because I was like, oh, that must mean I'm a failure. So I just moseyed on. But yes, I digress. This is how the laughter happens. I mean, I'm much better now.
I also think, like, part of me wonders whether or not because I see your mother laughs a lot as well. And you often, like, I think that, expelling, and I'm biased because I am a singer who also can't sight read, by the way. So I didn't even apply for chamber choir. Because I read the criteria anyway. I mean, if there are chamber choir people out there that are listening to this, and you have an opportunity for Raquelle to live her dream, and there's no requirement, please.
Or if you want to tutor me, hey,
no,
I'm here to learn.
You're not, though, because we're busy. So, but the point is, our guest is gonna join us in about half an hour, so we've got a little bit of time. The point is, I wonder, you're as a singer and as someone who's trained in voice, like, a lot, I do think there's such an interesting element to expelling your voice in a certain way. Like, you've seen, and I think that laughter is a really valid thing to do. Yeah. I think if someone, like, if you've seen The Joker, you understand the premise, especially this most recent one, which is
incredible. It was such an incredible
It humanizes movie. That when someone has a different wiring, in my opinion, I was like, wow, this is someone who is responding, who is, I guess, would you say, neurodiverse in a way that they are responding differently, or this might be an even a kind of stronger term, or a different term, I should say, not stronger or weaker, but when someone responds in a certain way, like when I'm going up, doing the grind, climbing that stupid mountain while there's floods happening, down it, I'm, my voice is like, like I'm constantly, don't spit it out. Don't drip your coffee out of your face. Don't expel. But, so I make noises, and Shantae and I, when we were living together, we would do that. We'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, and she'd be like, and it would you just get it out. I don't know. I've seen so many, like, again, this was culturally, I don't know if it's a Hong Kong thing or what, but like so many people I know in Hong Kong do that. Some of them don't, but I don't know. It's like an expulsion, right? You get rid of that.
Yeah.
And maybe your laughter is like diffusing that energy.
I think it's twofold. I think that's definitely part of it, because for me, especially back then, I mean, I've definitely got a lot more control now, but back then I would get really anxious. I would have like a lot of anxiety about telling someone something that I knew they weren't going to like to hear. And so it was like you would overthink it for so long, and then it was all compacted in your chest, and it was sitting there, and to let go of it was really hard. It's like letting a little bit of air out of a very full balloon. Right. You have to stretch it. It's difficult to let just a little bit out. And so I do think that that's part of it. I also know in terms of using humor, like growing up in a Dutch household, humor, and even being here now, I was like, oh, because before I could have been like, oh, it was just my family like that. But being here now and living here, everybody is this way. Like humor is used all the time. It's used by lecturers, it's used by students, it's used to diffuse things, it's used to get to know people, it's used by police, it's used by, like, it doesn't matter what level of authority someone is. It's very ingrained in the culture to use humor to basically break the ice. And I think growing up in a household where that's how things are, and razzing each other, like you get to know someone. Yeah, you get to know someone and you get close with them by making fun of them. So like even at our Dutch Christmas, it's very traditional to like roast somebody. And that's a form of love. It's like, I know you well, and I'm going to make fun of you, and we're all going to laugh at it. So, you know, that laughter and that, I don't know, it's like dealing with hardships, dealing with frustrations, or just breaking the ice, or, you know, all of that humor is used. And so I think it's that combination. And to your point of using your voice, I do not think we in our society use our voice nearly enough, because...
Explain how you mean, what do you mean by that? Like use, like physically, or do you mean like without words, or
physically? Like,
I think voice training should be like, as in even
it
just
should
like
be mandatory.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, because there are so many people that hold that, like when you hold, and this is the interesting thing about like our conversation with the ocean, you know, when we talk about, and I'd love to get a podcast going with and a show with an acupuncturist about energy, just specifically on energy, because when you don't expel these things, like they're still running around, you know, we can't see them. But I always, again, and I'm sorry, you've all heard this now, especially the people that know me personally, but you know, I always say we talk about energy in such a, you know, like woo magic way, where people are like, there's no science, but everybody believes in Wi-Fi. And I don't, and that is also let me just be really clear. If you don't have invisible Wi-Fi, then that's called dial up, and we need to bring you into, you know, we need to kind of rectify that situation, but that's also a systemic issue that we are actually having. But when you think about how something impacts you, like I always talk, you know, Carolyn Quinn and us spoke about the fact that, you know, it's what we're 80% water, or however much percent we are, we're mostly water. And using our voices is really therapeutic. I think we're made to do that, you know, yoga and all the chanting and all of these things that happen, like breath work. My goodness, I want a breath work person on here.
Or do you ever get like really angry and you just want to yell? Like, why the
that's when I do that.
Can we not just yell? Like, I remember when I was little, and I was like maybe between 3 and 5 years old, and having that deep curiosity and that deep need to just yell. And I remember I did it once. I was like, okay, there's no one around. I was in an alley, not by myself in the alley.
Just pick oh my God. You are the Joker. This is Batman. This is Batman happening right now. What happened then, Raquelle?
Let me
Are your
rewind.
Parents your real parents? Do you live in a manor? Is this one room in a manor? Is that why you keep changing locations? It's actually all the same house?
And skill sets.
You lie. So everyone thinks that I'm the actor here. Well,
I actually wonder, I'm sure my mom would remember this, but yeah, so basically we had this Jeep, and outside of our apartment there was parking, right? And so it was in the alley was the parking. So I was actually in the Jeep in the alley, and my mom had to run back in to grab something. So she's like, don't move, stay in the car, like I'll be right back, I'm gonna grab something from the house. And I was like looking around, I was like, this is my moment, like nobody's here, it's first thing in the morning and the alley is empty.
Wait, okay, sorry. Let me just also translate that. Nobody's here. I'm in a space that echoes a lot. You know, potentially with the windows down because ventilation.
It was up.
Okay, well that's one thing. And at a stupid hour in the morning, and I'm going to scream in an alley at the top of my lungs. And you asked me why you didn't get into chamber choir? I will tell you.
I thought it was like the perfect moment. I was like, there's no, like, and you're a kid, right? So I was like, I can't see you, so you can't see me. And I've got these windows up, and there's nobody around, so like no one's gonna hear me. And I had this deep desire. I was like, I need to know how loud my voice is. I've never been able to find out how loud I can be. Like, there's never, think about it, as a kid, especially growing up in the city. When have you ever in your life actually had the chance to know how loud you can really yell? Ever. It's never socially acceptable.
I think that's why sports. I mean, that's our podcast with Shay Emery.
Yeah.
Like, you needed to ventilate. You need to
I needed to ventilate.
You didn't have a Shay Emery to be like, come and throw some snowballs and yell at people and be a Viking for a day.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, I just got my Ancestry DNA back, and I am like a fucking Viking and a half. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
That's why you needed to yell also. Like, some part of me, some past life, like this really overly like hairy, aggressive, like a Viking Raquelle, like I don't know, Ragnar or Raggednor, the grave. We'll call you Ragnar the Grave. Would be Raquelle's like Viking name. Just, you know, because it would be ironic because you laugh all the time. Yeah, that makes total sense to me, as much as everything else in your life does.
Well, I got in trouble for yelling.
Add that to my things. Oh yeah. What I find out today? Well, Raquelle did choir and was a Viking.
Oh, yeah. and I have some Maori. I have some Maori, and I have some Native Americas, they call it. Native
Americas, they say.
Plural. Americas.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, so you have, and they tell you percentages?
They tell you percentages, but it's an estimate.
I don't like that.
Why don't you like that? I'm so curious.
Oh gosh, I don't know if we're really on weird tangents right now.
We are.
This is like your typical brunch. And thank you for joining us once again. Please subscribe to the. We promise that we're not
always this rambly.
This rambly
or badly dressed, really.
Yeah. Excuse me, you look great. I look like a slightly weird marshmallow with a side rat tail that we got rid of. We dealt with that. Let's just acknowledge that happened. Let it go. Say goodbye to it. It's now just indefinitely captured forever on this particular recording. But apart from that, let's leave it alone and never bring it up again.
We'll post a screenshot.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah. This is where the collective we works really well, because, you know, it is only me that has this recording, and no, is not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe for the 10-year anniversary.
Oh my God.
When side rat tails are a thing, and we're at the Met
that's
Gala.
Gonna happen.
The side rat tail.
The rat gala.
Oh gosh. What were we talking about?
We're talking about percentages
right.
of DNA, and why you're weirded out by it. Why are you weirded out? Why is this a thing?
It's not that I'm weirded out. Yeah, I am, but I am. Yeah, I am. And one of the things that I've been thinking about when people say they've done it or they want to talk about doing it is I really identify with the culture I came from in multiple ways.
Yes.
And so if someone came back to me and said, "What did you just do? Did you break the microphone?"
No, but my leg pulled the cord when I adjusted out of excitement, and then my microphone fell into my lap.
That was just a dramatic drum roll. Everything's happening in this episode. This is the birthday episode. Everything's going on. My point is, I think
Are you worried if you identify a lot with one of the cultures because you grew up there, but then it shows a percentage smaller than what you actually identify with, and if that's going to like cross over?
I do think there's a part of that where it's because I suffer. I don't like the word suffer, because I have experienced a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of being quite proud of where I've come from, but also spending a lifetime. Like I spent a lifetime not belonging because I wasn't Chinese enough, I wasn't British enough, certainly wasn't Nepalese enough, definitely wasn't Polish at all, except for the last name, which just caused confusion. And at every turn, everything I've done, I've had to justify. So people, and I'll be the first to admit, and the only one because no one else has been me as far as I remember, as I navigated through moving to different countries at different points in my life, I really sought identity as a way to be. And what happened now? What is someone calling you? Is it the bat phone? Is that the mayor? Do you need to go do something? Do you have somewhere to be right now? Is that why are you laughing? Supervillain just flies in the room. This is just a movie. Welcome to the TV show. Welcome. But just behind you, something's about to explode. Like, what else? This is the new this is the start of the next Bond movie?
Oh my god, I'm gonna meet a robot on Thursday.
Wow, that was a very interesting sidebar. I love how this conversation just went organically to that. So good.
But job. You're talking about superheroes, and it reminded me of the robot.
Okay, yeah, that still doesn't give me a great deal of confidence.
I'm really excited.
Us. Okay, well then tell me more. What is the robot's name? How did you meet?
I don't know. Well, we're meeting on Thursday.
Who's we?
I haven't met.
Oh, just you and the robot.
He's coming to my class, but really, this is about me. So I'm gonna meet the robot on Thursday. Yeah. She's bringing in two. One is a dinosaur robot, and
why is one
because okay? So, P.S. My university
is doing. That's not the right word.
No. P.S. My university is doing incredible studies. This is like the end of the letter, but then like P.S. side note, my university is doing incredible studies. But
that's not the end.
No, this is not the end. Now we're going to continue into the letter.
So.
P.S.
Okay.
But okay, so they're bringing
tell the story,
they're bringing them in. Yeah. Because they're doing a study right now, and it's actually really interesting. So they brought robots in. So okay, hold on. Let me go back a step. I think his name is Bobo. Have you heard about the Bobo study?
No.
Okay, I'm looking it up more after this because I was just talking to my professor about it today. But basically, Bobo or Bono, anyways, he was this clown, and they did a study, and it showed that like basically this clown. It was like back in the day when like violence was funny.
What day? Like the 60s?
I don't know. I have to look it up.
20s?
I'm looking up the study after this.
I see. Okay, right. It was at a time.
It was at a time.
Yeah, it was at a time when violence was more acceptable.
Like slapstick humor was like a big thing.
I see. Okay.
And
40s.
Basically they would show that, like they would have this clown guy and then he would like get hit and people would laugh. And then the guy would hit him again and then people would laugh. And it was like really this funny thing. But then they showed that because the guy who was hitting the clown was not getting in trouble, and everyone else was seeing this and then laughing, it actually made people be more violent because they're like, this is a socially acceptable thing to do. So communication scientists right now have taken that paper and are looking at it in the opposite way, and they're really curious. As we move forward into digital world, can people learn from robots?
Sorry,
which is fascinating.
Well, I just had a moment of like I get these images when you say things where I'm like, I don't know what happens, but its story plays out in my mind where Bobo comes in and starts slapping people.
Yes, and then other people are laughing, and then and this is the thing, is like, okay, so if we were in a room together and I came up and I pushed you and our team watched, and then everyone laughed and they're like, this is so right, they're like, this is so weird, and then I like laughed along, and then I came up and I pushed you again, and then everyone laughed, and then I was like, yeah, this is really funny, and I did it again.
Will I be laughing?
Well, then I don't know. But then eventually
She's
everyone's
not finished her masters, everybody. She's just halfway. Don't make.
Let's say
judgments.
this happens a few times, right? We do this like 3 or 4 times, whatever. The likelihood of someone else coming up and pushing you is much greater, because this is now a funny thing.
How old are these other people, though?
This is regardless. This is just social acceptance. This is social acceptance. So we've now showed that it's socially acceptable for me to push you. And everyone else is going, okay, this is socially acceptable.
Right.
Maybe I'll try it. I don't know. Right? So it's just encouraging this behavior. And so that's what's happening. Right now we're looking at it from the opposite side. So they've taken these robots, and they said very quickly, you can see that people are interacting with these robots like they're humans. So they're personifying these robots. And the robots do things like they look at you and they'll say, hi, what's your name? And they'll talk to you. And so they used these robots with kids, and they got the robots to give out stickers. And they thought that the kids would look at the robots like a parental figure, but they didn't. They saw the robot like a friend. And when the robots started giving out stickers, the kids started giving out stickers. So they were learning good behavior and how to be nice, happy humans from this robot, because they were learning that this is socially acceptable and this is what we should be doing, is sharing.
What do these robots look like?
You know what? I'm going to have to, I'm going to take a video on Thursday and we'll put it into this video.
No, there's no we in that. You are asking me to put this in. You are going to move away from saying we. That is my mission for you this year. Happy birthday. Stop saying we, because I'm doing that bit.
If you want to.
No. That's another passive phrase. If you want to. No, I don't. I don't want to. Do I have to? I have to, is what you're saying. Just like I said, it's your call. When I meant it's your call. Not it's your call, which means I want you to do one thing or another. Otherwise, I'd say, I want you to do this or the other thing. But I
don't want you to do it. But
yes,
you
do.
Want to do it.
No, you do. You do want. Don't lie. Once again, you want me to do it. But
I don't necessarily want you to do it.
Maybe
I
this
just
is
want
a
it
training
to be in there.
This is just a Kristina and Raquelle training ground on
whether
both of us being like, hey,
it, or
don't
someone
be weird.
else doing it, or you doing it.
Yeah,
but I don't have a preference that you do it.
You do. With all the given factors and using basic deductive logic, I'm the one that has to do it. Let's be honest.
Oh my god.
Okay, yes. Well, I'm glad we good job us for clarifying nothing.
Yeah.
Today.
I think I don't even know if we finished a single story. We just jumped stories this whole time.
You know, it's a getting to know you episode. And
there wasn't even booze in here.
No, it's 9 o'clock in the
morning. This was like, well, it's 7.
Oh, you're right. This is true. Yeah, and also mimosas happen at 9 o'clock in the morning sometimes on holidays.
But
I want to go on holiday. I miss holidays. I should come and visit you in Amsterdam your bat cave.
Yes, I have a turtle on the wall, a huge turtle.
That's creepy.
It literally takes up the size.
That's very creepy.
I'm gonna take a picture.
Is it real? Is it a stuffed turtle? I don't.
I wish it was a real turtle.
You wish it was a real turtle stuck on your wall? That is a monstrous thing to say. Take that back.
Not stuck on it, but if I had one as a friend here.
That's still really super creepy. That's very creepy. I would love to have a turtle that just stays and is with me whenever I want, that I can speak to all the time.
If you want to, you can add this picture into it to the end.
Watch, everyone's gonna watch this. You're all gonna watch this, and
nothing will be added.
And you'll see who won this argument. She says with very quiet, total lack of confidence that I'm gonna actually win the argument.
Do you see the turtle? Do you see it? I sent it to you.
No, look at the turtle.
Look at the turtle. It's gigantic.
That's so weird. That's so weird. What? It's a purple turtle with an orange shell, and I'm in the middle of it on a laptop.
Are you by the face of it?
I'm in the middle of the shot just to the right of the shot. Okay, it's
like it's huge, right?
What's the red coral? Is it coral?
I don't know. It looks like, I always think it looks like bacteria.
Wow.
You know, like bacteria under a microscope. That's what it looks like.
I just finished actually the book that I narrated on marine biology and marine life is out right now. It's available.
You have so many things going on.
I know I do. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
And the award for the movie?
Oh my gosh, we've won 3.
Holy.
I say we. I can say we in that. Yeah. New York Shorts and LA Asian Film Festival were the 2 that we just got, and I think Phoenix was the first one.
Wow.
So this is I think it's pretty much all Asian cast and crew. Definitely all Asian cast because it's me and Ryan. It's just 2 people. I counted them. We're both Asian.
I counted them.
I counted us. But yeah, and Ryan just booked his first series regular on a series regular recurring one of those things. Like he's playing it's a big break for him, so he's doing really well.
Wow.
Yeah, actors in Vancouver are auditioning a lot. I think there's some fatigue coming from self tapes and the volume, and like I have a 7-pager that I'm prepping, and that is an amazing role, but I'm also like, okay, how do I optimize? How do I get efficient? How do I do this? And how do I be okay with not booking much? You know, the outcome is it's not about the outcome, but I think that's also really hard when that's the thing that you want to focus on in your life, right? Like that if you're a goal-oriented
person,
it can be
tough.
And that's where the conversations around building infrastructure and building an industry where you have a more 3-dimensional journey as an artist, which is like you and I have spoken about the book that I'm working on right now, is the hybridity of us as creatives and the necessity of that hybridity with the ultimate goal of not having to necessarily do that. But I think this is another conversation for another time, but what I'm working on right now is that research surrounding what is it that society has done and brought, what stages it brought us to that keeps us from actually having fulfilled, sustained creative careers. And then what do we need to do to take those first steps, but also acknowledge that you can't have everything that you want in a career. Like, just like you don't love to do the admin part of your job some of the time, but you love your job overall. And how do we kind of increase that value so that you can have a sustainable career as a creative and do that for the most part, but also glamorize the de-glamorized side of it. Like, you know, you and I doing, you know, a podcast to start with, a TV show eventually, we have to know the production side as well, and we have to be willing to do the business side behind it, because our society is not at a point yet where everyone who wants to run a show can do that. That's just not the space in the world for it. However, there are mechanisms and things that I think, and skills that we can kind of take, and a career that we can cobble together to show that we can be happy doing it. But right now, a lot of actors are like, either we book the job or we don't. There's not that satisfaction in between.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part is I'm thinking back to what Beatrice King said, and she was so incredible. And one of the things that I loved that she talked about, and I'm not an actor by any means, so I do not know
on you.
The
You've done everything else. Are you sure?
Oh my
Am I
God.
going to just hear that next episode? Yeah, you probably did acting. Okay, great, sure. Don't tell me now. I don't want to know. Just save it. Save all of your weirdness for later.
Pack it away.
Pack it away. That's how you
I do have a
you glue your fingers together, and this is how Raquelle packs. This is how Raquelle, she puts all of her fingers together and makes invisible fusions.
I
and
put
then
on
goes,
my
"I'm
little,
gonna
like,
scoop
my
this."
mittens.
Packing mittens. How do we be impractical about this?
How are we gonna get through this next recording?
Good job. Let's pack it all up here now.
Oh, good Lord. No, but Beatrice is talking about how if you, and it's almost a consulting mindset is how I viewed it as a non-actor. But in the sense, like, if you don't view it as I got this or I didn't, then you're not gonna put the onus on yourself being good enough or not good enough. But if you think of it in like, are we a good marriage? Am I the right person for this for you? And are you actually, is this role the right for me?
Right.
But that said, when you're super hungry for a goal, whether it's acting or a job or consulting or whatever it is, that is the time where it is so hard to get that perspective, to get that like step back, because every break feels like the break. Every time you go in for like whatever it is, it's a meeting or you're trying to interview for a job, every single one of those feels like the one that could be the breakthrough one. So it's so hard to step back and be like, true. Let's take this on as a consulting type mentality. I know. It's true. But I do think that is like the trick to it as well. It can be one of them. The other option, which is open and has been exercised by many, many people, is to put all of their eggs in one basket, go down a rabbit hole of feeding off of their insecurity, and then end up having really serious health problems. Oh, or dying. That sounds like a great option. It's an option. People do it. Yeah. And you look at these people and these, celebrity culture. And again, that's why I bring back society into this. And this last audiobook that I narrated was on unapologetic eating, and about how we put so much time and energy into that we are not actually being our truest selves or listening to our bodies and what we want. And some people, there's, again, to go back to Dr. Gabor Mate in The Realm of the Hungry Ghosts, that book really articulates how some people can really be addictive in their personalities, myself very much included. So if I'm not careful, I am going to run at a thing and just go for it, but at the cost of so many other things that I'm not really sustained in the way that I'm doing it. But I can. And the reality is, I think yes, there are a lot of things against me and a lot of factors that mean that, I could never like quote unquote make it, but I know that I would probably have a really good run at it and potentially run myself into the ground. Because I think what the reality is that people forget. If you were to put all of your eggs in the basket. If I was to put all my eggs into that basket, because if you do that, you are ignoring the external factors that are not in your control. If you do that, you are saying, and to be fair, there are a lot of people who did do that and have had amazing careers and are very healthy. But there are a lot who didn't, because we glamorize. And again, as society, we glamorize it. So if your body or your soul or your guides or your guts, your intuition changes, often when you're on that trajectory, in my opinion, this is just a layman's view, but in my opinion, I feel like my neural pathways are now set, and now I can't veer off of it. And when I try to, it feels uncomfortable, so I don't. I stay on that trajectory, and then instead of it actually being the right thing for me to do, to keep going because I feel fulfilled and satisfied, the reality is the external forces that have come into play have created this very focused, singular mindset that is pushing me towards a thing that I actually isn't best for me. I've convinced myself and I've created it, and then I can't get off that train. And then it becomes, there's too much at stake. I can't leave now. We can translate this into a lot of situations. I've committed to this person. I've committed to this thing. But that can also be very useful. Like, yes, being able to have that personality where you can just like put your head down and run full force can be so useful at times. Everything has a superpower.
everything. It's how I think when I see a lot of people, it's about how you understand yourself. And that was one of the big things about this book, about unapologetic eating. It was like, understand yourself rather than, having society tell you what you need to aspire to. And I'll give you an example. I stopped using my weights, my scales about 2-3 months ago. And I don't know if I've put on weight. I'm pretty sure I have. I'm pretty sure I look bigger. I am actively undoing the thought process around it. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need to do a social experiment to see actually how does that impact my bookings. And what I did recently was book this massive commercial that I was really proud of booking, because they cast all through London, all through Vancouver, looking for the right person, for their right person for this particular spot. And I know that there were factors that I can't control and play, but when I got there, I gave them my actual measurements, I gave them my actual weight, and they found a dress that looked actually amazing, and I felt great. But I didn't put that into my decision-making process or at any point in that journey. I didn't ask myself if I was skinny enough to get the role, because that's what's been my
I agree with that. I haven't
conversation.
used a scale in probably, oh my God, years. Like, it's probably got to be 10 years. I just don't use scales. That's so
Right.
But also I taught kickboxing to women, and I had women who would come in with such unrealistic goals. They were so based around weight, and literally what I would tell them is focus on a mini goal. Focus on, for you it's acting, for you it's like, how can I show up as the best actor possible? I need to do this, this, and this. For them it was, you're going to be the best person at doing jab cross. Like, so simple. Simple as in like a small goal. Attainable. This is what you're going to focus on this week. Next week it's going to be a kick. Let's see how hard you can kick. I want you to be the loudest, hardest, fastest kicking person in this room. And when you hit that, when you know that you've outpaced and outpowered everyone in this room, we'll move on to the next goal. And I gave them these mini goals, and next thing you know, they're shedding weight, their muscles are getting defined, they're toning up, they're feeling great. And it's not to say that it's not healthier to lose excess fat. Honestly, like, it's better on your organs. It's better for your breathing. You're going to be able to go further. You're going to be able to show up better with more energy. And that's just the reality of, like, our bodies. It's just how we're primed. Different people have different levels, but it had nothing to do with looks. Nothing to do
because that's the external.
Looks.
That's the external, right?
Yes.
That's what it's, and I'm doing, the book has actually helped me to question a lot of the ways that I interact with other people, where I'm like, is this a me problem, or is this me trying to mitigate a you problem? Right?
Yes.
Because
and
I'm
voices
like,
around
is this society telling me that I should be doing this, or is this me saying this feels really good? And, with the understanding that you have the base foundation of being kind and considerate, and a lot of these, like, function as a citizen of the world, that you would treat someone like you love them, but with that foundation, I think that's really important. I think it's a really important thing to consider. Anyway, we have to go.
we have recordings to do.
We have shit to do. We have shit to do. Good job. I'm glad that this was a trial. Next time we'll invite some other people into Brunch Club, because these are probably how the conversations are going to go. Let's be honest. We didn't get to waxing and laser and other things, being vain. That's a me thing, by the way. I fully accept and own that. But yeah, good job. Send us some feedback. Let us know what you think. If you have any books on diets or eating or habits that you've formed that are allowing you to be more connected to oneself, send them our way. And until then, go be awesome. That's all I have to say. Do you have anything to say, Raquelle? Happy birthday, us.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for listening, bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.